Welcome to this edition of the Heartland Crime Stoppers Show. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Today on Crime Stoppers, we're going outside the studio. We're going to the Lakeland Police Department Training Center. We're going to be talking to some of the SWAT team guys, looking at some of their equipment and what goes into becoming a SWAT officer. One of our guests on Crime Stoppers today is Sergeant Bob Bernhardt. Sergeant Bernhardt, it's so nice to have you here.
Glad to be here.
Now, Bob, tell us how you got in law enforcement.
Okay, well, I've been in law enforcement for 18 years. I started my law enforcement career in the city of Winter Haven Police Department back in 1997. I was there for 3 years. I transferred over here to LPD in August of 2000.
Now, have you been on the SWAT team? You were in Winter Haven, correct?
That's correct.
SWAT team. And then when you got into Lakeland, after you had your probationary period, you were able to get on the team here.
That's correct.
Now, Lakeland has a really unique history on the SWAT team. Y'all have a way that you judge yourselves is obviously by competition. And there's a big competition over in Orlando called the SWAT Roundup. Tell us a little bit about that roundup.
Yeah, the Florida SWAT Roundup. It's an international SWAT competition. It's held every year, either November or December. I said it's open internationally. So we have teams from outside the country. A lot of times there's Germany's there, Ireland, Bosnia, not to mention teams from all over the U.S. Your big name teams like Los Angeles PD, Dallas, Texas, just from everywhere. North, South, and several Florida teams, obviously.
Now, this isn't just a come out and sit at a desk or sit at a target and shoot something metal. I mean, this is very interactive, very strenuous, very hard competition. Tell us about some of the things that goes on in that competition.
That's great. It's a week-long competition. Actually goes from Sunday to Friday. First couple days are what's called educational days, where there's classes we attend that basically debriefs on incidents that maybe happen around the country. Then once the competitions start, it's a lot of, let's say, running and gunning. It basically tests your physical ability, your ability to think on the run, your ability to shoot, and your ability to work as a team just to get through each of these events.
Yeah. Now, this is a team event. You have, what, five members that go through as a team, and you have to depend on each other and communicate, and you have to really know what you're doing.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, none of it's by yourself. I mean, granted, you're shooting your targets by yourself, but you have to be wary of what your partners are doing. A lot of times, depending on the event, they duplicate an officer going down, so then all the rest of your team has to come together to get this officer down through the rest of the course.
Now, this is not a full-time job on the police department for you, is it? You have other duties that you do. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that's right. Lakeland is a part-time team, which means we are a 26-member team when we're fully staffed, and we are scattered out throughout the department. I am currently the sergeant with the Lakeland Police Department motorcycle unit.
Okay.
And we have units that are in our criminal investigations department. We have officers that are in patrol, so we're spread out through the department.
And like I say, you have your full-time job. Now, you do have training days that you do come out. You train, what, twice a month? Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you have different scenarios, and there again, it's just staying proficient in all the many things that a SWAT team member has to know and has to do.
Right. We come out as a team twice a month. Most of us will come out here on our own, other than that, just to stay at the level we're at.
Obviously, staying in shape for this stuff, you have the O course as you run. You have your jumping jacks and your push-ups and your runs. You know, we saw a video of that earlier. And it's not something that they make you do. This is something that you want to do.
Yeah, SWAT's a voluntary position. They've just recently, you've had a year on the police department, unless you come from a previous agency with more experience. You can try out for the SWAT team. That's what it's basically, to get onto the SWAT team. There is a physical portion you have to go through. It's not really that difficult. It's a 1.5 mile run you have to do in 12 minutes. The O course, I'm not sure if you've seen that or have that on film. We have to get through that obstacle course. An individual person you have to get through in about 5 minutes, 30 seconds. And we have some various shooting courses. Fireman's carry, you have to carry someone. It's just basic stuff you have to go through, and then there's an interview process.
Well, certainly besides the physical aspect, you have to have that certain mental aspect as well, because law enforcement is dangerous by itself. And now you're being thrust into an extremely dangerous situation that is far and above what you would normally run into on the street. At least ways you know where you're going into on a SWAT call out, that it can get bad pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah. So we never know what exactly you're going into, but that's why we take our training very seriously. Like I said, I'm the sniper team leader. We have an 8-member team. We try to deploy in pairs on any type of call out, but we do all types of training as far as room entries, as far as room clearing, safety. You can see we have the department keeps us pretty up to date on current weapons and equipment that are used to keep us safe as we can.
Absolutely. Now, on the sniper aspect of it, you shoot anywhere from, 50 yards back to 300, 400 yards, is that correct?
Yeah, we've trained to be proficient out to 500 yards, typically being a municipality. Yeah, you're talking maybe 70 yards or less for an average. Good jump.
Shoot a little high.
You should have kept it at 6.
And you're not shooting these targets just from a prone position or a sitting position, with a brace and at a table. I see you have scenarios set up where you're actually shooting from the top of a simulated roof.
Yes.
And from sides of berms and sides of mountains and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, we do all sorts of positional shooting. Like you said, it's not, sure you'd love to be laying down in a prone position on a blanket. Typically that's not what's going to happen when we're out there on a real call out. Like you said, we've been on rooftops, we shoot underneath cars, out of cars, in the bushes, wherever you're at. You just gotta have to try to make and set up to take the best shot you can take.
Yeah, and once you send that round down range, you can't pull it back either.
No, absolutely.
And that's probably one of the most delicate positions, I think, to be on a SWAT team. I mean, they're all important, they're all delicate, but the sniper position, I mean, you're prepared almost as a last resort sometimes.
We act as cover for our entry team. Obviously, we're there primarily for observation first. We have the scopes on these rifles with the magnification. A lot of times we can see things that our entry team can't see as they're stacked up, or if they're waiting, or if we're hailing for a barricaded subject. We can look through these windows at different distances and see a lot more than what they're seeing, and we can report to them where we're seeing someone inside a house. And then, yeah, if it comes to the point where we do have to take a shot, we're out there by ourselves most of the time, unless we have a spotter with us, which we try. But so, yeah, it's a lot to take in.
Yeah, and then, of course, when you get these call-outs, you're coming from all areas of the city. You may be on duty, you may be home sleeping after work midnight shift, and you have to just be ready to drop everything and come in, and you have no idea how long this may last.
That's true. Typically, when the call-out comes out, it's when you are home in bed. So yeah, it's a lot. You got to get up, get moving, and like you said, it can last a few hours, it can last a few days.
How many call-outs do you normally get a year? Do you have any idea?
We don't have too many call-outs. I will attribute that to the fact, as I explained earlier, we have members that are spread out through the department. A lot of times we'll have several SWAT members that are currently on duty, and a lot of times a lot of these incidents can be handled with a smaller element to where it doesn't require a full-scale call-out, to where we bring everything out. That's typically what's been happening, but we'll average 1 or 2 a year.
Yeah, and it's not so much that you do it all the time, it's that you're prepared to handle whatever they throw at you.
Yes.
Because you just have no idea if it's going to be one subject and what he's going to have, a hostage or children or daycare or...
Absolutely, you have to just prepare for everything. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Exactly. Well, Sarge, thank you for your service to our community. And we wish you the best of luck.
All right, thanks for having me.
We're going to take a look now at some of our unsolved crimes on Crime Stoppers. So take a look at these. If you recognize any of them or have information on any of these crimes, please call Heartland Crime Stoppers at 1-800-226-TIPS, 1-800-226-8477.
These suspects have taken an estimated $5,000 in merchandise on two separate occasions from a Winter Haven Walmart. The group entered the Walmart at 355 Cypress Gardens Boulevard on January 26, 2016 at approximately 3 a.m. and on February 9, 2016 at approximately 5 a.m. and proceeded throughout the store gathering items. On both occasions, they left the store without any attempt to pay. They are seen leaving in a white Ford F-150, Chevy Tahoe, and also a black Dodge Ram. Anyone with information on the identity of these subjects is asked to call Detective Charles Blanton at 863-401-2256. Polk County Sheriff's deputies are seeking the public's help in an armed burglary investigation. Between the hours of 12 and 1 p.m. on Tuesday, February 9, 2016, a residential burglary occurred at a residence on the 1700 block of Cherry Lane in Lakeland. A white pickup was seen in the area at the time of the burglary. The truck appears to be a Ford. During the burglary, the unknown suspects removed approximately $800 in property, including a .357 revolver. Anyone with information about this investigation is urged to contact Detective Jay Jordan at 863-577-1600 or 863-298-6200. Polk County Sheriff's Office robbery detectives are asking for the public's help in an armed robbery investigation. At approximately 7:50 on Sunday, January 31st, 2016, an armed robbery, a home invasion, occurred at the residence located in the 900 block of Cumberland Drive in Kissimmee. This area is within Polk County. 3 black male suspects, armed with handguns, kicked in the front door of the residence, making entry. The 3 suspects pointed their weapons at the victims and began searching and ransacking the residence. The 3 suspects fled the area in an unknown direction. Anyone with information who wants to remain anonymous and be eligible for a cash reward is asked to call Heartland Crime Stoppers at 1-800-226-TIPS. Hey, do you know this guy? Apparently his nickname is Dane Dice, or Deuce and a Quarter. He is known to frequent the Auburndale area with his girlfriend Edie. He is wanted for questioning in the theft of 250 gallons of diesel fuel from a construction site at Florida Development Road and U.S. Highway 27 in Davenport. The theft occurred on January 25th around 8:30 a.m. He was driving a Ford F-250 pickup, which was stolen from the Tampa International Airport and later recovered in Winter Haven. Anyone with information who wants to remain anonymous and be eligible for a cash reward is asked to call 1-800-226-TIPS. Lakeland Police Department need you to identify the suspects of a retail theft that occurred on December 28, 2015 in the city of Lakeland. If you have any information on these suspects, please contact Sergeant Patrico Guidi at 863-834-6972. At approximately 9:01 a.m. on Thursday, January 28, 2016, a gold-colored Apple iPhone 6 was taken from the 7-Eleven convenience store located at 44249 Highway 27 in Davenport. A female victim had left the phone on the counter. A couple of minutes later, a white male suspect was observed making a purchase at the cash register. The white male suspect then exited the store with the phone. The suspect was seen leaving the area in a blue pickup truck. Anyone with information who wants to remain anonymous and be eligible for a cash reward is asked to call Heartland Crime Stoppers at 800-226-TIPS. The Polk County Sheriff's Office is investigating a burglary to the Town of Dundee Public Works facility. The burglary occurred sometime between January 28, 2016 and January 29th. The suspects forced entry into the building and removed a 6x12 single-axle lawn trailer, a yellow Hustler Super Z mower, several Echo weed trimmers, a Stihl chainsaw, and various other equipment and tools. The total amount of the property stolen was approximately $19,233. Anyone with information in reference to the incident or the identity of the suspects is asked to call Detective Davis at 863-438-9540. The Lakeland Police Department needs your help in identifying these suspects of a vehicle burglary and credit card fraud that occurred on January 6, 2016 in the city of Lakeland. If you have any information on these individuals, call Detective Alex Aviles at 863-834-5949.
Welcome back to Crime Stoppers. I'm your host, Chip Brown. Now we have Mark Eby. He is a SWAT team member here with the Lakeland Police Department and just promoted to sergeant. Sergeant Eby, congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you, sir.
Now, you had an interesting story about how you actually got started in law enforcement. We were talking about it earlier. Tell us how that came about.
Many years ago, I worked construction before I got into law enforcement, and I was actually in the National Guard. And back in 1993, I believe it was, Hurricane Andrew hit Miami, and I got deployed down there with the National Guard. And while we were down there, we worked with the local police agencies and stuff like that. So we kind of got to see what they did and all that stuff, and it looked like something that was pretty interesting. So my time was almost up in the military at that time, so I ended up getting out of the military, going to the police academy, and here I am today.
Here you are indeed. Well, and to talk about Hurricane Andrew, I was down there in the aftermath as well, spent a week down there. And like I say, unless you have actually worked down there or been in a major hurricane like that, I mean, it is like an atomic bomb went off.
Yes.
It's nothing. So.
A war zone is how I describe it. When people see pictures of like the World War II bombings and stuff, that's what it looked like. I mean, there were like subdivisions that were completely flat. So it was definitely an eye-opener.
No road signs, no traffic lights, no stop signs. Everything is gone.
Right.
And all night long you hear gunshot.
Yep. Oh yeah. We'd be out patrolling, and like I said, with the roads blocked and stuff, there were areas that you couldn't even get to for weeks. So if something happened, people were on their own a lot. So like I said, it took a while for us to be able to get in and clear the roads where we could actually, get in there and help people and stuff.
Now, Mark, you have been on the SWAT team since 1999.
Yes.
You've seen a lot of changes in those years.
A lot of changes, yes, sir.
And it says a lot of perseverance to keep yourself in shape, as we talked about. You have to do this yourself. They're not paying you to do this. This is volunteer, and if you don't keep yourself in shape and you can't pass the test, you're not going to be on the SWAT team.
Correct. We have that annual physical qualification that we have to go through, and the guys put in a lot of effort to stay in, to be able to pass that test. So, it's it just goes to, and that's how when you talk about us winning the competitions and stuff, most of that is on them, because they have to come in on their days off and their time off, and they do a lot of training like that in order to get to that level. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to do as well as we have done.
Yeah. Now let's talk about some of the equipment that the officers on the SWAT team carry. What is their primary weapon?
Our primary entry weapon is basically an M4, short-barreled AR-15, or actually an M16, because they are fully automatic.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Most people can't get their hands on a fully automatic.
Correct.
And it's you really have to be trained, because it wants to walk on you, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about weapons and stuff like that when you talk about semi-autos and fully automatics and stuff. But yes, ours are, and that's why we train twice a month. We actually shoot quite a bit more than the average SWAT team. And I know that because from being out here, I see the other teams that come and train. So when I see how they train and I see how we train, I like to think that we do a pretty good job overall.
Yeah. Now you would know that personally because you have been one of the range instructors here at the training center for 5 years.
Yes, sir.
And until you got promoted recently, you would probably still be here.
Yes, sir. Good job out here.
Now, Mark, everybody doesn't have the same job on a SWAT team. Tell us what some of the duties are for the different positions.
You have your sniper element, and then you have your basic entry element. Within the entry element, each member usually has a different job that they do. You have your breachers, which are your guys that make entry. They break in the doors or pry them open, whatever the situation calls for. You have your shield people, with they provide cover and stuff when we're making entries or while we're stacking up to make an entry. You have our electronics people, and they operate like the robots, the cameras, a lot of the technical stuff, the equipment that we have. So you have a lot of different things that's going on right there. And you have different members on the team carry different types of weapons also. You have some guys that carry our M4s that we talked about. Some people have the MP5s, just different, shorter, different type of weapon for different situations that they're more compact, more practical for if you've got to clear tight spaces. Like at some point or another, eventually we'll probably have to send somebody up in an attic or something like that to clear it. So the different weapons work better in different situations.
And certainly when that situation dictates itself, you can't call a timeout and go back to the station and get that weapon. You have to have it right then and there ready to adapt to whatever that gets thrown in your face.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Mark, I've noticed that you have a lot of sergeants on the SWAT team, and this is basically just from people starting when they're officers and being promoted and still staying on the team, because once you train up with these guys, that's experience that you don't want to lose. You want to keep that. So tell us how that operates.
Yeah, like you said, most of our people that are on the team, they start out when they're relatively young in their law enforcement career. Usually within a couple years, if they're predisposed, if they want to get on SWAT, they start working on that before they ever get on the team, which they have to. They have to kind of prepare themselves for it. So when they do get on the team, they just start working their way up, and we send them to schools and stuff like that. So they get a lot of experience, and then those people, as promotions come up, they end up getting promoted. And by that time, we have a lot invested in individuals, whether it's schools, experience, training, and all that stuff. So. It would be a waste to force people off the team, just because they get promoted to a sergeant. So that's why we're pretty sergeant heavy right now.
Now, what happens after they make from sergeant to lieutenant? What happens at that point?
And once they make a lieutenant, then that's then they do have to leave the team. We have a lieutenant that is over SWAT, but that's an appointed position. It's not it's not a SWAT. They're not required to do the same qualifications as the SWAT member.
It would almost seem like the experience and training that these officers get on SWAT actually prepares them for that promotion to sergeant and for lieutenant, does it not?
I believe so. I think that's why if you look at the team, when you talk about leadership and all of those qualities, that's why we're so heavy with sergeants on the team, because the same things that make them a good SWAT operator, carries over onto your leadership positions and, in whatever field they're in, whether it's patrol, traffic, narcotics, whatever it is. So yes,
I've noticed watching the training here for the last couple of days that egos don't really seem to get in the way for all these sergeants competing, well, I'm a sergeant and I say this, and I'm a sergeant and I say that. They really are very cohesive in the fact that we are a team, and they have different people in charge of different things, and everybody really understands their role on the team, and it seems to just make one big happy family, if you'll pardon the pun.
It does, and like I said, with everybody kind of starting out at the bottom, the guys that you were working with last month or 6 months ago or a year ago that were operators, now they're sergeants. On the team, yes, they do have rank, but we're also still the same guys. That just the fact that somebody's a sergeant doesn't change a whole lot in regards to the team and how they operate and stuff. So yeah, we're pretty lucky that we do have that. You don't have, you know, the egos and stuff like that to get in the way. Everybody works together extremely well. And I think that's why we're so successful in a lot of the stuff that we do, even when it comes to the competitions or, you know, even the operations and stuff that you know, out on the street. And that's where having a lot of the sergeants comes in pretty handy too, because even though you have situations that happen out on the street, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have some SWAT supervisors on scene or that are working that can go to that scene right away and kind of assess it, you know, tactically and you know, and work through it like that. It's just a huge advantage for the Lakeland Police Department overall to have those guys in place like that.
And as these guys are on the team and as they're being promoted to sergeant, they're actually trying to nurture and mentor these young guys coming up, because it is a process. I remember when, you know, Mike Chin was moving up. I remember
Yes, sir.
when Chief Giddens was moving up, you know, through the SWAT team. You always have that training somebody to, not only because it helps them to be a better officer, but these guys are covering your back. And so you want to make sure that they are the very best they can be.
Right, and like I said, that goes a lot to that cohesiveness. And like I said, we're getting older. You know, sooner or later we all have to move on. And you know, these new guys coming up, they're, you know, it's a transition. They'll take our places at one day, and then we'll be the ones sitting on the sideline, and they'll be the ones coming out, you know, backing us up and doing that stuff. So if we don't train them right, you know, they're not going to take care of us later. So,
Well, obviously that has worked because, like I say, 6 first place team events or 6 first place overall champions
Yes.
at the SWAT roundup, plus numerous seconds, numerous thirds. I don't think y'all finished lower than 5th. I don't believe, have you?
in the last, since 2000, which was the first year that we won, I think the lowest we have had, we finished is somewhere maybe like 6 or 7. But usually it's in the top 5. We've had a team in the top 5. And when you're talking about teams from all over the world, you know, full-time SWAT teams, military special forces, and all those guys, you know, we're pretty proud of the fact that little old Lakeland, you know, with a part-time SWAT team, that we can compete with these guys. But again, that goes back to, you know, their individual work ethic and stuff, that they come out and they train on their own, and, you know, physically and, you know, with their shooting skills and all that stuff.
Exactly. And there again, those teams have changed since 2000. You have maybe a few that have been like yourself on most of those teams, but you have new people coming in, and as people get injured, as they rotate in, as they maybe transfer and can't work it anymore, you've got to prepare for that. And obviously Lakeland has done a good job with that.
Well, and that's that transition you were just talking about. You know, the older guys have to train the new guys to step up and take it, you know. And there's a little, you know, friendly, you know, competition within the team too, you know, which, you know, kind of helps, you know, push them and stuff like that. You know, like I look at it as an older team member, you know, when I come out with the younger guys, you know, you feel like, you hope that they look at you, you know, and say, you know what, you know, that guy's old or older, and you know, he's still out here. So you try to be a little bit of an inspiration to some of these new guys and stuff.
Well, Mark, we thank you for your years of service and wish you the best of luck as a new sergeant, and enjoy the work.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you for watching this edition of the Heartland Crime Stopper Show. We hope you've enjoyed some of the outside stuff about the Lakeland Police Department SWAT team. And remember these cases that you saw a little bit earlier. If you have any information on those cases, please call Heartland Crime Stoppers. You remain anonymous, and if your confidential tip results in arrest, the recovery of stolen property, or recovery of illegal drugs, you're eligible for a cash reward of up to $3,000. Remember, it's a crime, and you can make sure they don't get away with it.